Hello, everyone. Or more like, hello, Professor. My name is Marla Cortez, as you know, and this is my final podcast for our History 364 Latin American Nations class. Um, there is a lot I would like to say. Let me actually start my timer before I spend 19 minutes like last time. Anyways, to start off, I just want to go back to the overall focus of the class in Latin American nations, which is basically examining the political, economic, social change within Latin America and re-envisioning and recreating the nation over the long 19th and 20th centuries. I know our focus there was a focus we had to choose for our class, and I feel like my focus started off as one thing and then expanded to another, but I feel like that touches on Latin American nations themselves and the history of it and the historicity. Hope I said that right, and the discussions we have about the nations of Latin America and revolutionary change. So I feel like my focus expanded as I learned more about the history of Latin American nations, and I think that's what I want to focus on today in this podcast discussion. Basically, just tying in the different case studies, the different situations that we've discussed in class, and a few outside resources that kind of provide that support for what I've taken away from this class. But just kind of starting off, I liked focusing overall on like time, change, shifts, and just like environments and how those characteristics really play an important role in how we perceived history, how history is perceived through other people, and even thinking about during that time, that moment in time, how those Latin American nations perceive their situation they're in, and how the extension of time is basically showcasing those changes. But there is a lot I would like to touch on, but I kind of wanted to discuss this outside source that I really enjoyed reading. Give me 1 second. It is trying to Michelle Gobat. I hope I'm not saying that incorrectly. Michelle Gobat. And their journal article on the invention of Latin America: Transnational History of Anti-Imperialism, Democracy, and Race. This was a really interesting outside source because it basically delves into Latin America itself, specifically the definition of it, which is also a focus that I tie into the overall class with language use and verbiage and how that really plays an impact on our discussions. But tying back to the resource, I kind of just liked this paper because they basically give a glimpse as to the value of what it means to be Latin American and where it stems from, and how at first it was kind of this elite power that identified as Latin or Latin American, and as times changed, non-white populations like blacks, Hispanics, etc., were able to kind of use that. They were able to weaponize it, but in a way that led to revolutionary change, not exactly just straight violence. Of course, violence does play a huge role in all of these changes and revolutions, and we see time and time again that there's often a lot of failure and violence that comes within them, but it kind of just ties back into that into that discussion of attempting to change these nations through ways of democracy, of socialism, and everything else we've learned. But yeah, I think that this overall discussion and my focus, it's complex because of the extensiveness of the different things that I focus on, from gender to women's roles to regulations, to the nature of war. Just a lot of these characteristics that make up these revolutionary changes in Latin American history. Sorry, it just kind of goes to show that it's very, very much still alive, and we have the understanding of history today because of these changes, because of the Zapatistas, because of the Shining Path, because of I think I'm saying this right, Iran Contra, I can't really say it, sorry. But I just think I try to stay on the academic side of it, but I kind of just feel like this class reveals academics and humanity go hand in hand basically, and we could look at history through this academic lens under magnifying glass, but there's always going to be that human perspective that we come to understand, and I feel like that really brings all of this class together in our understanding of Latin American nations and that revolutionary change. Sorry about that. But yes, oh, that is 5 minutes. Just one more point to make. I also want to touch on what it means to embody different situations and different ideologies, and how important of a role this has played from the beginning of the class to the end of it. There's always these ideas, these things that start off as ideas and grow into something bigger, whether it's successful or not, or it's like a failure. They all embody something that allows us to move on to the next step, which I feel is really important to recognize. We cannot be in the position that we are in right now without those failures and those successes, and I think that's something really valuable to learn from when it comes to the revolutionary changes of Latin American nations and the time frame that we focus on. But yes, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this class, and I hope to take everything I've learned with me in my next classes. Thank you.